Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a poem written by me, Caton Barry, based on the original novel by J.K. Rowling. Our story begins in Little Winging, Surrey, with an unorthodox family with the last name of Dursley. But Vernon and Petunia had an odd little secret, and made it their job to do nothing but keep it. For they had a secret most un-Dursley-ish. Petunia had a sister named Lily, a witch. What they didn't know yet to them was quite scary, but they would soon meet her son, an infant named Harry. James Potter and wife Lily lied as cold as a blizzard, killed by the most evil, most darkest of wizards. Voldemort was his title, but he gave Harry fame. Baby Harry survived, he who must not be named. From his wand came a blast, and the neighbors awoke. When he tried to kill Harry, his power had broke. Death is a fate of which there is no worse, but Harry survived Voldemort's killing curse. His only gaping wound could be seen from afar, for on the baby's forehead one could see a lightning scar. Dumbledore, as headmaster, decided that day to leave him with the Dursleys from fame far away. Wrapped up in blankets, a new home at last. For Harry it wasn't long before 10 years had passed. The Dursleys were unkind to Harry, unfair. He was a pale skinny boy with crazy black hair. Right to his face the Dursleys had lied, and gave him false stories on how his parents had died. When asked they'd respond like a verbal whiplash, telling Harry his folks died in a car crash. The Dursleys saw Harry like something so muddy, he was nothing compared to their only son Dudley. Dudley's gang picked on him. Dudley was spoiled rotten, to the point it seemed Harry was a child long forgotten. Dudley had 2 bedrooms, a spoiled rotten son, yet poor little Harry barely even had one. In fact, little Harry had no bedroom at all. He slept in a cupboard beneath the stairs in the hall. Although Harry tried to avoid much attention, sometimes things would happen that were hard not to mention. Once Aunt Petunia gave him quite a scare. In a hot ball of rage, she cut off his hair. However, the next day she gave Harry a whack, when much to her horror, his hair had grown back. There was a time when Harry felt a little aloof. Dudley's gang had chased him, then he was on the roof. These unnormal things were quite normal, per se, but things soon got worse on Dudley's birthday. That day was a blur, and Harry couldn't focus at the zoo with the Dursleys and Dudley's friend Pierre's Polkus. In the reptile house, Harry was wide awake, looking at the glass box that was holding a snake. For the next thing that happened, he went to the cupboard, banished, for somehow, someway, he made the glass vanish. He was sent to the cupboard for his unnormal ways, where he spent the rest of his last summer days. But things would turn up, they would soon get better, on the day when young Harry got an interesting letter. The letters kept coming, Vernon kept fighting, refusing to tell Harry who was sending the writing. Who was writing him? He did not understand, as Vernon stopped all letters from reaching his hand. The letters kept coming, and boy Vernon tried. He took the whole family and Harry to hide. On the verge of insanity, Vernon had cracked, and took them to hide in a desolate shack. In seeing how the Dursleys tried so hard to hide him, Harry couldn't help wonder who was trying to find him. Still, that day on the run might have been his worst day, but tomorrow would come his 11th birthday. He would soon leave the Dursleys, the whole Dursley gang. At that moment, the door crashed and hit the floor with a bang. In the doorway stood a giant clothed in unusual fabric, the Hogwarts keeper, a giant named Hagrid. The size of this giant was a wondrous glory. He sat down on the couch and told Harry a story. And then Harry learned the whole truth of the secrets the Dursleys had hid through his youth. His parents had not died in a fatal car crash. His lightning-scarred forehead was a meaningful gash. Harry wasn't normal, he was a gem. His parents were wizards, and he was like them. On the next day, there was quite a rally, as Harry and Hagrid searched Diagon Alley. Everywhere wizards were heading to shops, but for Harry and Hagrid, the first stop was Gringotts. Down into the vaults the 2 friends had soon sank, but such was the custom for a wizarding bank. In Harry's big vault was a sight to behold, for his parents had left him much wizarding gold. Then something strange happened, giving Harry an irking. Soon they traveled down to Vault 713. Just why they were down there, Harry did ask. Dumbledore, Hagrid said, had gave him a task. But what this task was, Hagrid wouldn't say it. He promised Dumbledore that he would not relay it. The two left the bank, but Harry needed clothes. He went to Madame Malkin's to buy his school robes. Yet doing great spells is more hard than it looks, so Flourish and Blots would provide his textbooks. And then something happened that did not make him scowl. For his birthday, Hagrid bought him a white snowy owl. What could he call her, this creature so tame? He looked down and knew that Hedwig was her name. But now it was time for him to take a gander at the wands being sold inside Ollivanders. Harry chose the wand, or did the wand just choose him? Yet he soon learned a fact that made him feel grim. Voldemort, years ago, had been to that store. The two of their wands both shared matching cores. Just a month later, Harry left Little Winging for the Hogwarts Express. He could hear the bells ringing. There was no looking back, only looking forwards. But how would he reach platform 9 3/4? How he would get there, he did not know at all, but he then saw something which was hard to recall. What had he seen? Was it some kind of trick? Were those redheads vanishing through a wall made of brick? How would he do it? He assumed not too easily, but he then received help from redheaded Mrs. Weasley. He got on the train thinking things would get stranger, and he soon met Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. All were quite anxious, wanting to know more about what their futures would have yet in store. Ron really wanted to stand out from the others, which was quite hard to do with 5 older brothers. Hermione was nervous. Would she soon feel scorn? Some wizards looked down on her kind, muggle-born. They told Harry these things. Harry never forgot them, like the toad named Trevor with Neville Longbottom. It was then that he met an unpleasant blonde boy who introduced himself as Draco Malfoy. He looked down at the others and gave a retort, warning young Harry not to mess with the sort. At last the train stopped and conversations aborted. In the dining room, students would soon be sorted. No, they were not sorted by weight or by ounces. New Hogwarts students were sorted into houses. At the front of the room, students just simply sat, and they wore the mystical, magical, talking, sorting hat. There were several houses. In fact, there were 4. Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor. When Harry wore the hat, he felt power within, and begged not to be in the house Slytherin. Why not Slytherin? Harry had decided. He did not want to be where Voldemort once resided. The Sorting Hat thought, after much consideration, Harry got Gryffindor to much jubilation. Harry felt full and did not feel hollowed. Ron and Hermione, both Gryffindors, soon followed. At Hogwarts, Harry was something of a rising star. Students all over would gaze at his scar. This made him feel great, so warm with emotions, a feeling soon crushed by his professor and potions. With a face always scrunched like a really sour grape, few students preferred the presence of Snape. He made Harry squirm. He was a sour pickle when he glared at Harry, whose scar would then prickle. One thing that helped Harry make it to the end was the thought of soon visiting a very dear friend. Once class was over, he led Ron in a strut to visit dear Hagrid in his small little hut. A visit to Hagrid's was hard to refuse, but while there, Hagrid told of some interesting news. No one saw it coming. It was not foreseen, yet someone had robbed Vault 713. Breaking into Gringotts was the hardest of tricks, like learning to fly on the Hogwarts broomsticks. They did this in class. Oh yes, they took risks. Poor Neville Longbottom broke one of his wrists. Something had happened when Neville took a fall. By accident, he dropped his toy Remembrall. What could be worse than his toy finding a place to get stuck? Not how hard it fell, but who picked it up. The trickster looked at it, that sniveling boy. The Remembrall now lied with the wicked Malfoy. Harry didn't like this. It was too unfair. The two got on their broomsticks and chased through the air. Draco threw the Remembrall straight toward the ground, but a fast Harry caught it, barely making a sound. The speed which he caught it was really quite comical. One need only ask Professor McGonagall. Normally, the professor wouldn't tolerate fools, showing such disregard and breaking school rules. But when she saw this, she felt a bad itch that Harry was right for the sport of Quidditch. Malfoy, full of scheming and viciously cruel, then challenged Harry to a dark midnight duel. To help support Harry and keep him on the offense came Ron, Hermione, and Neville to support him as friends. They searched through the castle that night like a fog, but through a wrong turn found a three-headed dog. They left in a hurry, Harry lost in his thoughts. He knew the dog guarded what was lost from Gringotts. Of this place Hogwarts, Harry had grown quite keen. Then something grand happened that dark Halloween. That night in the castle, just who took a stroll? A quite large, quite stupid, quite ugly old troll. Down to the girls' bathroom Harry and Ron did go. The troll was now loose, Hermione didn't know. They soon found Hermione in the bathroom, but they then quickly saw that they locked the troll in. They used all their spells, shooting them out at launches. Both Harry and Ron knocked the fat troll unconscious. Hermione hugged them. She could not feel hateful. For both her dear friends, she felt very grateful. Harry grew nervous, an impatient waiter. His first Quidditch match was a couple days later. Flying on his broom, he felt a great force. His broom had been jinxed by a mysterious source. Hermione then saw this and knew who to go after, setting fire to Snape's robes, the feared potions master. Harry caught the gold snitch with an impressive catch. The Gryffindor team had just won the match. Holidays at Hogwarts were not to be missed, thus, Harry stayed with Ron for the weeks during Christmas. He researched a fact Hagrid meant not to tell. Vault 713 connected with Nicholas Flamel. He woke up on Christmas without much forewarning to find he had presents on that winter morning. He was so excited he thought he might croak at the sight of one gift, an invisibility cloak. It came with a note that gave him no bother to learn that this cloak once belonged to his father. That night, Harry wanted time very well spent. He put on the cloak, through the castle he went. He entered a dark room. He tried to see clearer. He stopped and he gazed at the reflecting mirror, for it wasn't only his reflection he saw. He saw his whole family, his ma and his pa. He wanted nothing more than to be there with them, and so the next night he set off again. But that night there was a surprise in store. Right in front of the mirror stood the wise Dumbledore. Harry felt really nervous, like a real airy head, but Dumbledore then explained, the Mirror of Erised. What could not be known by such a young youth? This mirror showed no knowledge, no facts, no truth. But why from this mirror was it so hard to part? The mirror only showed the desires of heart. Harry now knew this. There was no need to prove it. Dumbledore told him the next night he'd move it. Although he was tired, he asked with a grin for Harry to never look for it again. Harry was quite sad when the mirror departed, but soon after Christmas, things really got started. Hermione had discovered, and no one dared debate her, the Sorcerer's Stone. Flamel was the creator. Just why was the stone a prize to be won? As an elixir of life, it could help anyone. They remembered that dog too big for a bone. They knew it was guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. They now knew the secret and would not reveal it, since Harry suspected that Snape would soon steal it. Hagrid had a secret. He didn't mind bragging. In his hut, he had sheltered an illegal dragon. Just how did he get it? Asked the boy with the scar. It seems he had got it from a pub or a bar. He'd had too much mead. He'd felt like a slog. He'd received the young dragon for info on the dog. Harry and Hermione saw this as a hassle and smuggled the dragon outside of the castle. Ron had a brother who went by the name Charlie, studying dragons in Romania, a place very farly. Since he was away, he couldn't attend, but he sent many buddies to help his new friends. It had been so easy, or so they had thought. Harry and Hermione were quite quickly caught. As punishment for breaking the Hogwarts curfew, they went to the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid +2. 4 students entered the forest with dread. Malfoy and Neville were also out of bed. Harry paired with Malfoy, his face full of scorn. They then saw the body of a dead unicorn. Malfoy acted brave, but then stopped his gloating. Something over the unicorn's body was floating. They couldn't make it out. Nobody could. The thing they saw floating was covered in a hood. The unicorn laid there in the wet forest mud, while the dark hooded figure drank all its blood. This was no creature even Malfoy could slay. He let out a scream and ran far away. Harry wanted to run, but felt a strong strain. His lightning bolt scar was scorching with pain. The hooded thing saw him and moved even closer, but a centaur then saved him, a heroic imposer. The figure slid away, but the centaur knew the sort. He knew that that creature was Lord Voldemort. The Sorcerer's Stone was what he was seeking. To survive, it was unicorn blood he'd been drinking. Harry knew what to do. He knew that he should go and steal the stone before Voldemort could. The three searched the castle, not making a peep. They played music to the dog and crept past in his sleep. They went through the trap door and had quite a scare, landing not upon floor but upon devil's snare. As its snake-like tendrils strangled them all, Hermione cast a spell. Through the snare they did fall. They saw some things flying, not dragons or bees. When the three friends looked up, they saw flying keys. Harry thought on his feet and got off them quick. He captured the right key, flying on a broomstick. They unlocked the door and found a real mess, and they stood on a giant board of wizard's chess. The chess master of the group was undoubtedly Ron. He won the game and made the others move on. Next came a challenge fitting Hermione best. A riddle with potions put her to the test. This wasn't too hard for her, like a game. When they found the right potion, Harry walked through the flames. This was it now. It was the final room. Harry was alone, surely facing his doom. He saw a surprise and just had to gape. It was not Voldemort, and it was not Snape. It gave him a shock. It gave him a whirl. Defense against the dark arts teacher, Professor Quirrell. He could not believe it. This was not good. Behind the professor, the grand mirror stood. He chastised young Harry, who had not been observant. It was he and not Snape that was Voldemort's servant. He had tried to bring Harry that day to his doom, that day during Quidditch when he jinxed his broom. It was he who inside felt so ripped and torn, that was drinking the blood from the dead unicorn. He had one more task, and then he'd be gone. He needed that stone he'd been searching for long. He let out a cry, like a real desperate yelp, begging his master to provide him with help. Harry felt stirred, a little bit scared. He heard a new voice, but coming from where? The voice then told Quirrell to find the stone nearer, to put the boy Harry in front of the mirror. Harry then saw something inside of the mirror, but he would not share it, not be a revealer. He was putting the stone in his pants pocket side. He made up a story and valiantly lied. He told the professor, though he had made it up, he saw him as champion winning the Quidditch Cup. Just when Harry thought he'd pulled off this scheme, Quirrell then did something, nearly gave him a scream. He removed his turban, a sight hard to erase. On the back of his head was Voldemort's face. The sight was quite ghastly, that much was apparent. Voldemort taunted Harry about killing his parents. Voldemort not sorry. The Potters deceased. Now on to poor Harry, Quirrell had been seized. Yet then something happened that gave quite a turn. When Quirrell touched Harry, his skin pained with burns. Harry gripped the man, who then screamed and did shout. Then Harry, after struggling, simply had to pass out. Harry woke up from the battle, not feeling a sting, and he found himself in the school's hospital wing. Who'd come to his bed to assist him and aid him? Good old Dumbledore, who was the one who saved him. Dumbledore was honest and dropped his warm grin. With Harry saved, Voldemort escaped again. Harry survived his powers from above, because to protect him, he had his mom's love. When he was attacked, yes, by the Dark Lord, she protected Harry, her love for him poured. She was brave when she did this, with zero objection. She gifted young Harry with ancient magical protection. So how was it Harry had just found the stone? Why was it that image the mirror had shown? Unlike Voldemort, who vowed to abuse it, Harry wanted to find it, but never to use it. Voldemort was still out there, likely sporting a scowl, but because of brave Harry, he'd stay away for now. That night was the feast. Students sat and they chewed, filling their stomachs with delicious food. That year's House Cup winner was unfortunately Slytherin, but there were still extra points that needed considering. For showing such bravery and courage so true, Hermione, Harry, Ron got points, and Neville did too. These newly won points made most students grin. That year's House Cup was a Gryffindor win. Harry felt joy of magical sorts, concluding his first year as a kid at Hogwarts.